On to you, Doctor.
So I hope I'm audible to everyone. Am I audible to everyone of you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I welcome a very good afternoon to and very warm welcome to every one of you. I, Dr. Anjuman Singh, Department of Biotechnology, School of Bioengineering and Biosciences, feel very excited to introduce our speaker, Professor Gopalkrishna Iyer, for today's guest lecture on the topic entitled Renewable Energy and Economy. Now, why I'm excited? I'm excited because this talk is very relevant to all of us, because we know that renewable energy resources has contributed a lot in reducing in greenhouse gases emission, and along with having several socio-economic advantage when compared to carbon-based fossil fuel. So it is a very important talk for the today's demand. Professor Gopalkrishna Iyer is a president, Renewable Energy Promotion Association, and editor-in-chief, Inertia Nami, which is a non-profit trust established to deliver and grow sustainable energy and power in India, Asia, and rest of the world. Besides, he is also an author of path-breaking bestseller book, India, Brandished Bhutan, Brandished Empowering in Crisis, and a biographer of our late Prime Minister of India, Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Okay, the title book is Atal Sastra. So, without wasting any time, I welcome Dr. Gopalkrishna Iyer for his valuable talk and enlighten us with his knowledge. So let's welcome with a round of applause. I welcome Professor Gopalkrishna Iyer for your valuable talk, please.
Namaskar. I can hear me. Everybody can hear my voice?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible.
Okay.
You're audible, sir.
You're audible. All the faculty and the students at the National University, and this is a very important day that I'm addressing. To be very frank, first of its kind, lecture. Anyway, of course, I had given the lectures at the National Institute of Technology when pandemic was not there on these topics, but not exactly what we have selected today. Connecting the economy becomes very important in renewable energy terms and also in overall energy production terms, because all these years in the past, to take out some of the reports and research, you'll understand the world has preferred the GDP growth in terms of basically the million tons of oil. That has a definition. And this lecture is the first of its kind. No Harvard, no Stanford, no such lectures have come through, where for the first time the flaw in the world, in the way the world looks at the energy intensity, has been presented. And I have been talking about in public forums since the last decade, that and even before that, when we first did our report in 2009, parallel to the Kirit Parekh Committee's report on the integrated energy policy, and the IEA, which is the apex organization, International Energy Agency, and which is under the aegis of the United States.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt, sir.
And of course, an authentic body, which has been talking about the electricity, but again, every report talks of the million tons of oil equivalent in reference to GDPs of the world, and all. Now that's where the law lies. As we are from an oil-centric economy, which in 2011, in Europe as well as before that, Canada in 2009, and also in UAE, the Middle East, I had given to the Ras Al Khaimah Authority. And that's one very interesting speech when Bill Clinton came to Dubai and Ras Al Khaimah. So he had just come after coming out of the president, I made a pitch that the new oil is silicon. That pitch, it's everybody is shocked. But Professor Iyer talked. New oil is silicon. My view was at that time that silicon was going to be an abundant raw material, and then it will shift the world economy towards the direction of silicon. And what I predicted at the time is what we're seeing today, that we are seeing huge traction for solar. But then that prediction has come true. At the same time, it has not changed. Is reference to billion tons of oil. So now we have to talk about the amount of gigawatt hour, gigawatts that are required to drive economy, from shifting from the million tons of oil. So that is a shift, which is a shift not only for renewable, but overall the energy and the power sector in the world, where instead of referring to the million tons of oil equivalent per unit of development, we are going to talk about the gigawatt terms of energy required to drive our world economy. And that is exactly what is most important on this day. Today, we are meeting the 28th of February. Of course, the recorded like we are not in the deep. So you must all be very happy that an all-year day at 28th of February, which will come every year, we can use this day and we can ourselves create. I talk to LPU management working with me to convert this day to a sort of revolution that we have started, that we refer the world economy growth vis-a-vis not billion tons of oil equivalent, but in gigawatt terms. Now, put it simple, what it means that every economy to drive itself, wherever you see, you need all sorts of input, and we call it electricity in commercial terms. But in a technical term, can you hear me? I think some people are saying we can't understand.
Yes, sir. Sir, we can hear you. Actually, there was echoing. Some voice
they
was
cannot
there.
understand if they don't know a word of energy. Somebody wrote they cannot understand.
Sir, actually, sir, there was a echoing on voice, and for that they have raised this.
Now
It's somehow okay. I think Pawnpreet, now it's okay.
Sir,
Sir,
it would
actually,
be great if you can mute everyone else so that there will be no noise echo.
I think
all are muted.
We are muted from our side, everyone, unless somebody
Jayant,
unmutes, because
Jayant, please.
there's
Jayant,
no powers to control beyond a point.
Yeah.
Jayant, please mute. I think everyone is muted. Yes.
Is that fine?
Absolutely, sir. Please continue.
Now can you hear me?
Absolutely, sir. Now it's perfect. Now it's perfect, sir. Now it's perfect.
Is it okay?
Sir, it's okay, sir. It's okay.
Okay, I just repeat a few of the things that I said. Fundamentally, all these years, the million tons of oil equivalent has been the reference point. That means how many tons of oil equivalent are required to drive a unit of GDP. That has been the global way of looking at the GDP. The shift has happened because people like us have gone and talked on these lines, and we have said that now it is time to talk in gigawatts needed to drive the global GDP. Is this now very clear? So now
Yes.
I again repeat. So therefore, we have come to the terms in the renewable era where we are now discussing real-time movement of GDP vis-a-vis the gigawatt produced in the world. So some interesting figures for you at this juncture before I proceed with the lecture, further, because there was a meet called the COP26. For people to understand, COP26 actually at COP15, that is 2015, when the was held, and in basically in the COP15 meeting, what had happened? The world came together to talk about limiting the global temperature rise to delta 2 degrees centigrade above the pre-industrial level. This is a complex life simple for you. Suppose the average temperature in the world, whether it's a tropics, whether it's a cold, is, let us say, well, let's assume that it is about 28 or 30 centigrade. Just say. Then the limit by 2050 of that temperature rise was at 2 degrees centigrade delta. That means by 2050, this average temperature of 28 to 30 will not exceed 32 to 34 degrees centigrade. That was what they were talking. That means, and then the delta was fixed that the highest peak temperature will also go by, for example, in deserts. If we have temperatures hitting about 55 today, they will not rise beyond 57. And for the colder, the minus temperature, say, let's say, but an average temperature will not go beyond, let's say, 32 to 34 degrees centigrade. But then this was also not considered to be enough, because that would still ensure the increase and expansion of the sea, and several islands of the planet be gone below the sea. And this has happened between India and Bangladesh itself, and it has happened right in the Arabian Sea also, in the Pacific, in the Atlantic, everywhere where islands have been were there, small islands go away. Small habitats just escape because of the rise of temperature, because the sea rises then, because it's a delta and water rises faster, water actually expands quickly than the land, and automatically it will engulf the land. Now, to stop this, the world came to figure was the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, UN-IPCC, that came to this decision, and it was felt that even a 2-degree rise target was not sufficient, and to save the world, we need to stick to 1.5 degrees delta rise to pre-industrial levels, maybe 100 years from, say for argument's sake, 100 years back, whatever was the temperature, above that 1.5 degrees can be allowed. That is a delta. By 2050, we have to come to that. Now, with this, there were other goals that were fixed up. What were those goals? The first goal under the UN-IPCC was not the reduction of temperature. So how they would go about it? So one of the main ideas for that was to develop and expand the renewable energy portfolio. Now, that is what REPa is talking about. Unless you expand the renewable energy portfolio, you can't see the temperatures of the planet down. And that is what at COP26, the challenge meeting was held recently in the January. And then certain targets were fixed. And it was said that the idea of net zero came into picture. It was there, but it came into the public domain. What is the net zero? A net zero means from that year onwards, there will be no further production of carbon-based energy, or effectively zero amount of energy from any source, whether it's a power, whether it's for automobile to drive our automobiles. In the year 2050, it was fixed that no new carbon-based energy capacities would come up in the world. That is the meaning of 2050. So what happened in that meeting? The three major countries people were watching, who are the three major generators, are China, number one is China, number two is United States of America, number three was India, and the fourth, sometimes Japan comes up, depending on what parameters used. Otherwise, Russia would come up. So, but I would stick to these three. So these three countries were said to be the top carbon-based emitters, and the figures are interesting for you. See, the amount of coal-based power with China is close to 1,000 gigawatt, massive, 1 terawatt. That means the amount of coal-based power with United States of America is 400 gigawatt, and the amount of coal-based thermal power in India is just 203 gigawatt. What is the population of these three countries? China is 1.4 billion. America is 330 million. India is again 1.38 billion. Now that's where REPa had written. Then chairman, then president or the United Nations chair, Antonio Guterres, and also the UN-IPCC, we had represented saying India is not a polluter. India was only producing 203 gigawatt for 1.38 billion population, whereas America was producing 400 gigawatt for just 330 million population. So our argument was India cannot be stopped from feeding electricity to its population because we have a need for raising the per capita to grow our economy. We said, REPa took a stand that in spite of our love for all the renewable energy, we will say that India will still be allowed to reach up to 100 gigawatt of coal-based thermal power. And that's where the fight is all about. Because while the Americans Chinese have gone ahead with massive capacities. India is always being called a player, which is incorrect. India has got a massive traction of renewable energy at this point. Yes, but in that traction, like me, are not happy because our solar energy efficiencies are lower, because solar conversion efficiency on the field is only 90%, wind is 25%, whereas hydropower, which is 6.5 gigawatt, has a traction of 58% conversion efficiency, the best energy on the planet. And I'm not saying this alone. Because at this point of time, world has about, this was the result of 2020 figures, not 2022. We have 4282 gigawatt of fossil-based power generation, and renewable power generation is 2501 gigawatt, of which hydropower, that is one. So you can understand the language that the world is using solar in the top energy in renewable, correct? Because actually the top power is today in the renewable energy domain. For India also, it is the topmost contributor on the grid in actual capacity. One is, for all the students here, please understand that when we talk gigawatt is just the installed capacity that we have. But what is more important, gigawatt hours, because you have 365 days, 24 hours per day. If you will reach 8,760 hours available to the world per annum, and to every country per annum. 8,760 hours. And in the energy terms or in the power production terms, we say that at an average, all power plants can operate upwards of 8,000 hours. Roughly, all the power plants are considered to be capable of delivering 8,000 hours of electricity, right? Maybe the coal and all will deliver about 8,500 hours. Some will be 8,400. Renewables may come to 8,000 hours because not as much, like 6 to 8 hours, may be even lower. Then hydro is available definitely 8,300 hours. Like that, we can compare. It's the hour that is very important. So actual generation, the product of megawatt or simply megawatt multiplied by the hours that you have, taking maintenance, taking uptimes, taking optimal capacity, we come to certain power production, and 1 unit, that is 1 kilowatt hour. So everything is referred finally in kilowatt hours terms, gigawatt hour terms, and that's what the actual situation will be in the world order if we want to oil. So some interesting figures that I have got for you. In the oil capacity, we have China at the top, then comes United States, then number 3 is India. China has what, which is the REPa figures. US has 100 gigawatt, India has 400 gigawatt, Japan has 325 gigawatt, Russia has 250 gigawatt, and Germany has 220 gigawatt. Now, convert this capacity terms in terms of how many gigawatt is available per 1 million. Then we see that China has 1.4 gigawatt per million population of access, the access of power generation capability access. USA has 4.5 gigawatt per million. India has only 0.3 gigawatt per million. This is most important figures for you to understand why we have lower electricity access. Then Japan has 2.6 million of population. Russia has 1.79 gigawatt per million of population, and Germany has 2.6. So effectively in these figures, the top one, United States has 4.5 gigawatt per million of population, followed by Germany, which has 2.1 gigawatt per million of population, and the number 3 is Russia at 1.79 gigawatt per million of population, and China comes fourth at 1. Now this is only gigawatt terms without adding the number of hours of production. Now I'm giving you the figures from number of hours of production for the top 10 countries now. And expanding a little bit more, but let's go to top 5 is very important. See, the top generator in absolute hours is China at 7.8 gigawatt hour. USA is almost half at 4.3 gigawatt hour. This is actual generation. And India is number 3 at 1.6 gigawatt hour. Russia is 4th at 1.1 gigawatt hour. Japan is 5th at 1 gigawatt hour. And then we have Canada, Brazil, South Korea, Germany, France, all at 0.6 gigawatt of power. In actual, that in this order of reference, in absolute term, China is at the top, USA number 2, and number 4, and Japan number 5. But now I'm converting that in gigawatt hour per million of. So you see the figures, you watch what I'm saying. Basically, China has 5.6 gigawatt hours per 1 million of Chinese population. Now comes the most important point. USA has 13.03 gigawatt hour per million population. See, USA has something like close to 2.25 times what China has real-time access of electricity in terms of power generation. Then comes India. India is only 1.1 gigawatt hour per million of population. So we are far below China and far below, very far below US, which has got 13 gigawatt hour per. Now comes Russia. Interesting point is, after America, the largest per million population access Russia. Russia becomes 7.86 gigawatt hour per million of population, almost at number 2, matching up with Japan, which also has 8 gigawatt hour per million of population. So effectively, if you see in absolute terms also, number 1, and in time access to electricity also USA comes number 1. And the figures change because we suddenly see Russia is at number 2 along with Japan in the actual production of electricity terms. So these figures throw up different dimensions of the whole equation. That means we have to now compare actually what we are producing on the ground. And finally, in that terms, the top 5 countries are here in front of us. But we know the USA is actually the number 1 country. Then Russia and Japan are access. And then comes the Chinese. And India is very poor game plan, and can be very happy that the 5th largest and all that. It doesn't help us because we must with what China or US is doing. We cannot in per capita terms what US is doing. At least we must be per capita terms what China is doing. So that is the minimum we have to achieve for our 1.4 billion population. So this is the challenge that we will grow. And when we grow, we will grow renewable energy, but we will not be able to stop some growth in coal-based power as far as India's story is concerned. So India will at least go to the capacity thermal that America has put up for just 400 gigawatts installed. We have got 203 gigawatts. So this I want everybody, and also for you people who trusted the energy sector for sure, because it's going to be one of the biggest employers. Like the survey in the world, energy itself by 2030-40 in that period would generate another 50 million jobs. It means about 5 crore people globally would go to the renewable energy train. And then if you add that, the other side of coal-based power plants, you can say almost an equivalent amount of jobs created. So it's not IT sector or any other physical sector that could create. Manufacturing will create jobs for sure. Automotive will create jobs, but the biggest of employment and jobs would remain the energy sector in the world, which is of the conventional oil and gas industry, which will taper off. But the whole energy of oil and when we see this, and then add the transport economy on the sea for moving of goods and resources, would see the biggest employer, almost 70% of the global employment will be moving in this direction. So this whole picture presented that the information technology or other areas could be the biggest employment creators is incorrect, because the biggest employment creator from the beginning was when we ended up finding coal, and the British started running their trains on steam engines, and from that day itself we have seen energy sector has been providing a large sector part of the employment. Industrial sector was powered by electricity, and ships were powered with bunker fuel, and transportation was fueled by diesel and petrol and all that. And we see all this actually creates the largest segment of employability, deployability in the whole world, including activities of governments, including activities of nations, including farming, because that India, to take an example, we know India is still a great farm economy, because in the pandemic in the last 2 years, we understood the importance. While the industrial sector fell, the farm sector continued to grow in spite of, the farmers were sitting on definitely on dharna in the year, but then the productions did not go down because they still sustained their efficiency and they were able to produce their crops. But they are crying for the efficiency part. They were fighting for it, and they are absolutely on the right track when they are doing it. What we need to do is we need to energize the agriculture sector so that it gives a certain sustainability. And then the outcome of that will go and impact the industry. It has been seen worldwide that wherever the agriculture economy has been hammered, the development model has got skewed. Take the example of America. In spite of so much of energy access and everything, under 22 trillion GDP, what is happening to America is just about 1% of America controls 99% of wealth. So why? Because the contribution from the farm economy in America to the entire trade is less than 5%. While in India, the farm sector still contributes about 18 to 20% of the Indian economy. So that's where the difference lies. When we say economy, it's not absolute GDP terms. It's also how much employment we provide, how much people are deployed, how much people use the resources. So frugality of the farm sector, frugal use of energy is the main issue. For example, India's farm sector needs about 25 gigawatt of the total 394 gigawatt that we have installed today. Farm sector just needs 25 gigawatt. So therefore, their efficiency must be compared with the use of energy and what they are contributing to the GDP. If we look at this kind of a logic, then we will suddenly see that the agriculture sector is the biggest economic contributor to India in terms of energy intensity, and not the industrial sector. Industrial sector is a huge guzzler of both electricity, fuel, and water resources. All three are consumed in a major way by the industries. And yet we need industries because our farm sector does not have additional employment capabilities, because we are not going to value-added produce over there. So this dilemma is faced by India. This was faced by America, but what America did is they mechanized the farm sector. They removed the number of people in the farm sector. Large tracts of land was available. It's a massive country by virtue of area, and they could afford that. Canada can afford that. Even Russia can afford that, but Russia is a cold country, so their produce is much lower. Even US, most of it is cold, but then it's still a good agriculture economy in the areas that are more like our tropics. So that's why America still is able to control its food security. But slowly and steadily, America has made other choices because of the inefficiency they're bringing genetically modified crops. And that is the danger. Therein lies the danger. The biotechnology people, I will take in some other lecture this issue, but I'm just giving you a picture of what's happening to the whole world, that while we push towards renewable energy, our challenge is how would the two big daddies, the China and America, first, they are the ones who have to embrace net zero. So at the COP26 meeting, when this happened, President Joe Biden, he stuck to 2050. He said, okay, I will agree to net zero 2050 as per the deadline set by the United Nations IPCC. What India did is Prime Minister Modi went and said that we will do it by 2070. And I think by all means, with all due respect, what he was saying was not correct position. India would achieve net zero, in my opinion, by 2047, or even before that by 2042. And why is that I'm saying that? Today, if we consider that we have a 400 gigawatt installed capacity, then almost close to 155 gigawatt of that, or 160 gigawatt of that, roughly, is coming from the renewable energy. So we will continue to expand renewable energy, and hydro is 46.5 gigawatt. We'll have to return back to hydro success in due course. If we do that, that means if we have a target by 2027 to double the present 46.5 gigawatt of hydropower to 100 gigawatt, and also in the same way, if we expand, this figure on your screen is the breakup of what is the present power generation capacity of India. But that 394, I am taking a 400 gigawatt figure. If we come to about 200 gigawatt of renewable energy, and then we target for 2027 about 400 gigawatt of solar, which is what is REPa's position, and a total of 600 gigawatt of the renewable energy target, then we would be reaching about 800 to 900 gigawatt, or between 800,000 gigawatt of total capacity. That is achieved. Even if it's spilled over to 2030, I don't mind it, because another 2-3 years does not matter, because development is constant. So what will happen for India is India will be a major renewable generator in the world. And from the present situation, we will actually achieve the right balance of the power generation mix. And our access to electricity will also expand from the present 1.6 gigawatt hour per million of population to almost double of that to 3.2 to 3.4. So this is exactly the scenario that we have to achieve. And when we do that, I can tell you that our economy, what we are talking, we want to achieve 5 trillion. We would achieve between 6 to 7 trillion if we are able to do that. Because without power generation, you're going to fuel the GDP. See, the present growth of our electricity sector is very poor. In the last 2012 to 2017, we have added 14 gigawatt average per annum. In the year 2007 to 2012, we added 25 gigawatt per annum. So we came down drastically from the earlier addition in the last 5 years. So effectively what happened, that impacted our economic movement also. And that's why the GDP is still loitering at the level of 2.9 trillion if we agree to government figures. But what we have found out is we are at 2.5 to 2.6 trillion. We are still recovering. We haven't recovered fully. But assuming that we are back at 2019 level, and we take for face value the government figure of 2.9, 2.95 trillion, then also, even if we achieve 10% growth rate per annum, by 2027, we will reach about 5 trillion. But we are not achieving 10% growth rate. We have seen that we are not able to hit about 8%, and we are fluctuating in between. Pandemic, we had about 4.5%, and we have even negative growth we have seen. And an average growth rate is actually, the calculations have changed. The earlier calculations were different formula. The current formula, there's a critics are already saying that the growth rate that we are projecting is not actually 8%, it's about 5%. So what happens in this kind of economic situation? We are seeing a lower growth trajectory. We are seeing a very high inflation. Our wholesale price index at this point is about 14%. And our consumer price index is roughly 6.5%. So very high inflation, very low GDP growth rates. And what is happening in this whole picture? Low growth rate, and demand is also suppressed. The growth of demand is very low. So if this happens, combination, we reach a position which is called stagflation in economic terms. So we are going through a stage of stagflation. So to power it back, we have to improve the agricultural and industrial activity both. If we do this, then we need to up our ante for production of electricity. And obviously that has to go towards renewables. And this is what I want to impress upon you, that the entire train of job creation, of opportunities, everything will depend on what we do with the energy sector, fuel the economy, and then get young people like you into the system to get into contributing to the nation and also contributing to GDP of the country, and surely contributing to the world economy as such, which cannot happen without powering the electricity or the power sector and renewable sector at large. Okay, with these kind of little perspective I have given you, the first 2 points are completely covered. This third point is India's perspective and role for renewable energy. This also I briefly mentioned, but I want to give you a fundamental point which you must learn right now. It will be very useful to you for your future understanding of the whole world. First of all, we cannot talk about renewables without having an obligation towards the portfolio itself. So what has happened to government policies worldwide? They have been talking about renewable purchase obligation. That means they are forcing entities, companies, industries, and governments to buy renewable energy. That's right. But how would they buy if there is no capacity or generation itself available? So therefore, this flaw was pointed out by REPa a few years back, and now it's come to the policymakers. They are saying, okay, we will go for generation obligation. But I'm saying, why complicate the matter? Just use one word called the portfolio obligation, renewable portfolio obligation. That changes the whole game. Portfolio is a market term. The moment you use portfolio obligation, what happens? You have to create capacities. And therefore, when capacities are there, when the demand, which is latent right now, which is lying dormant, this latent demand comes into picture, then the economy is driven. Because you can't have the cart before the horse. You need to have the cart behind the horse, for sure. The horse is the renewable energy. The powering of the sector is through renewable energy. So unless we work on expanding our renewable portfolio beyond what we have today, like the whole world today is got 10,000 gigawatt or 10 terawatt. And we are by 2050 going to be a 25 terawatt production planet in the world. And if that is the case, that is going from 10 to 25, you can imagine the renewable energy portfolio has to be 60% in that. And this is the REPa position, that 60% of that should come from renewable energy. And this will happen because it will cross the 50% domain and 60% actual ground generation terms. So India's story is no different. India needs to expand the present portfolio of 155 gigawatt to 400 gigawatt, 450 gigawatt by short time, maybe next 2 years, 2027. And it has to reach a 600 gigawatt target by at least 2030. I would rather put that we put the target for 2027 itself as 600 gigawatt, which is possible and feasible very much, because we'll have a large capacity of 400 gigawatt solar with about 100 gigawatt of hydropower and about 75 gigawatt of wind in it, and the rest of 25 gigawatt will come from bioenergy. That will fulfill, and it's very much achievable because it's right within our ambit and target. So obviously solar will be the leader because its efficiency is low, but we need large capacities. But we have the challenge of land bank. We have the challenge of ensuring that all rooftops and all rural economy is powered. But at the same time, we cannot neglect our growth in hydropower, because hydro is not about electricity alone. It is about water resources. My friends, I will tell you today, Bhakra Dam, the one Bhakra Dam in Punjab, it ends up giving water and electricity to almost 5 states. Bhakra ends up feeding the agriculture sector of Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Delhi and Rajasthan, and parts of Uttar Pradesh as well. So if this is the scenario of Bhakra, 5 to 6 states benefit both in water and electricity. I can tell you the Gujarat Sardar Sarovar project also doing the same thing. The Sardar Sarovar Narmada Hydro project in Gujarat, 1450 megawatt. It is actually able to power the states of Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Gujarat itself. And the water resources also goes to these 3 states. While Gujarat takes predominant water resources, the other states get less from this Gujarat part of the Narmada project. But electricity, majority of the power goes to Maharashtra, Rajasthan, and Madhya Pradesh. And Gujarat gets very low volume of that power of 1450 megawatt from the Sardar Sarovar project. So when these projects comes up in hydro, they are multi-purpose projects. And they also help up irrigation, they help the farm sector growth. See, Gujarat's agricultural growth rates have been high for the past few years because they have access to water. And their access to electricity is also good. The same way Punjab has good access to water, and its access to electricity has to improve. So once that comes, Punjab will again be back into top reckoning in the country. It's already in the top 10 states. But yes, Punjab can do more than what it is doing presently. It could be the powerhouse again of the country, not only in agro production, but also in delivering electricity and energy, and also embracing renewable energy. So it's one of the leaders with a low population, about 2.5 crores population, and with a very high capacity to generate electricity and contribute. So this is what happens when a smaller state comes into picture and does. I'll give you an example of a smaller country. Japan has got only 125 million population, but it generates 325 gigawatt. Imagine India with 1.38 gigawatt, 1.38 billion population generates 394 gigawatt. So obviously, you see Japan, a small country, is almost matching up India in its power generation terms. So that's what I'm talking about. I'll give you another figure. In India, when we take the whole country, our total GDP, if we assume, is 2.95 trillion, then Maharashtra contributes the highest, $450 billion to it. We have access of 44 gigawatt of electricity, highest in the country. Now, these two figures tell you that, okay, we are a great producer or we are a great efficient thing. Yes, fine. Because when we compare that with the second state, Tamil Nadu at 290 billion, and they have access to almost 35 gigawatt. And at the number 3 is actually Uttar Pradesh, which will be in the region of 275 billion $, and access to electricity is about 28 gigawatt. So I give you 3 figures, and the 4th state immediately you will see is Karnataka. Nobody else, it comes in. So there are 2 southern states and the Dakhan, or even Maharashtra, in the old-fashioned geography, we can say Dakhan. So these states are producing more than the other states. And when you go further down, you'll see a lot of southern states will come into picture. What I want to give you is that there is a small country called UAE. Its capacity index is just about roughly 150 gigawatt, not more than that. its population is very low. Its population is almost equal to, just a little bit above what Mumbai is all about. About 3 crore people live there, right? But their GDP, the United Arab Emirates GDP, is $1 trillion US, my friends. Close to 1 trillion. Now 800 billion, I understand, will reach $1 trillion US. So this is what we are talking about. How effectively you are using your access to energy and electricity in particular to generate GDP and generate economy is most important thing for all of us to understand. So unless we increase our ability to use the electricity efficiently, the energy efficiently, and then generate economic wealth, till that time, whatever we are doing today will have absolutely no traction, and we will continue to be the economy which was earlier the developing economy. India was called a developing economy in the past, but I call India an economy in transition, or simply transitional economy. A transitional economy, it has been too long in the transitional stage, almost a decade now. So we have to jump from this level to the next, which is only possible if we combine now the energy and the economy together, and in particular the renewable energy to the economy as the highest employer, as the highest opportunity provider, as the one which reduces our carbon footprints, as the one which takes us to net zero, as the one which takes us to green economic growth. We have a neighbor, my friends. I've been visiting this country since the year 2008. I love those people. It's a very small fledgling economy called Bhutan. It's a small country in our neighborhood. It is about $2.5 billion economic terms. India helps in generating a lot of hydropower for them. And we believe that's a hydropower house because they have a potential of 45 gigawatt and we have a bilateral arrangement with them. Now, interesting part is it was the first carbon negative economy of the world. When I met the earlier Prime Minister Sharing Topke, he came to Gujarat and gave a speech then. And it was very clear that he made it out in the open that we are the first carbon negative country. Now there are a couple of smaller nations that are coming into picture, but Bhutan is the example to follow. 70% of that country is under forest cover. 30% is commercially exploitable, including agriculture and land resources, and 2 major cities, basically, or let's say 3 major cities, we would put it in Bhutan are Thimphu, Paro, and Phinsoling on our on the West Bengal side. And they have also Trongsa coming up, where power generation has come. So 4 or 5 major cities, mainly rural. A lot of farming is being done. It's a economy which is completely green and it is carbon negative. They don't produce even 1 megawatt of electricity from coal. All their major electricity comes from hydropower. They have only limited quantum of other kind of renewable energy, like they're just coming into solar, a little bit of wind, but otherwise predominantly they are a hydropower driven economy, and their wealth is growing day by day. In per capita, I'm telling you, if India develops the 10 to 12 gigawatt we have promised by 2020, which could not do, we have just done a gigawatt or less. If we do all the 10 to 11 gigawatt with them, the highest per capita income in South Asia will go to Bhutan. That's the impact of energy sector or power sector on economies. And if any model has to be followed in the world, it is the Bhutan model. And they love the idea of gross national happiness. They don't put up GDPs. They talk about gross national happiness. So that's one issue I have come to. Now I want to talk about the 4th subject, that is integrated system of raw material to electricity for renewables. It's not only for renewables. When we started coal-based power generation, India has got 384 billion tons of coal deposit, which is the 3rd largest deposit in the world. Right? And I tell you, we produce about 600 million tons of coal. So in all these years, we could not produce coal efficiently. We are talking of 1 billion production now, but it's too late because now the coal requirements will come down. At the same time, we have got a very high ash content in our coal. About 40% is ash content is there in our coal in India. If you compare to the Australian coal has got only about 15% or 14% ash content. At times, it's less than 10%. So this is very important to understand. And the calorific value, that is the energy content of the coal in Australia, is 6,000 kilocalories per kilogram. For the Indian coal, the best coal is about 4,800 kilocalories per kilogram, which is in the Korba and the Chhattisgarh belt, and also at some of the Singrauli belt. But otherwise, the average calorific value of the Indian coal is 3,800 kilocalories per kilogram. So our challenge was coal was very high in ash content and its calorific value was also much lower than what is available in Indonesia or in Australia. Now comes the third part. Is coal completely not capable of generating anything clean? The answer is that question itself is a very dubious question, because if we don't extract the coal, if we start extracting the coal bed methane instead of taking the coal out, then CBM would be conventionally an intermediate. It would be more a clean fuel, because coal bed methane, we just need to trap the carbon separate and produce hydrogen out of it. That's what, because when methane burns, it's hydrogen that actually burns. It's basically the hydrogen part of it that burns. Carbon is just burns together as a collateral damage, but then we have to collect it. So basically, we must understand that methane is a cleaner fuel, and most of the gas is a methane chain. So basically, natural gas is a cleaner fuel. It reduces emission by 77%. So India is in a transitional zone, and in a transitional zone, we will become a gas economy. While we are going renewable, we'll still become a gas economy. So in this, the raw material control is very important. Like I said, we had coal, yet we could not exploit. So now the situation is, for making solar photovoltaic also, we need silicon. So does India have a capability to produce raw silicon? We have, because we have the Thar desert. It's a very massive desert out there. So we have a desert zone where silica is available, sand is available, and we can process. But we need to put up money in research and all that, and we need to go to these materials, and silicon-based development has to come to this country, and the government has just woken up. Because right now, the world is led by China, because 70% of all silicon PV material for photovoltaics is produced in China. India is about 10%, 11%, and rest is divided worldwide. So we have the challenge of material leadership. The only material leadership that India has at this present is in the nuclear. While we have a very poor nuclear capacity, nuclear is renewable, my friends. Nuclear does not generate carbon. Nuclear is clean fuel. The only part we are discussing is nuclear safety. So present reactors that India have are mostly Russian reactors or the US based reactor and the Canadian reactor combination that is in Tarapur. But overall, what reactors we have is, from heavy water, we are going to pressurized water reactors. And then we are building our own fast-breeder reactor, which means in fast-breeder reactor, uranium, enriched uranium is used, which is the spent fuel of the primary reactor. It goes to secondary reactor fuel, and then we perpetually run it. And this fast-breeder is an individual technology of India, which is developed at the ICCAR, which is Indira Gandhi Center for Applied Research. It's an indigenous technology. The first plant is Kalpakam, 500 megawatt. It's a commercial grid reactor. It's on the verge of getting into the grid. It's already producing electricity. That's a good news. But the real good news is India has the world's largest deposit of thorium. We are commercially 30% of the deposit of thorium. And in ideal terms, if we can exploit, we have more than 60% of the deposit. But if we consider what the geological systems of the world talks about, we are 30%. And behind is countries like Australia, Canada, China, US, we will all come. But we are the largest producer of thorium in the world if we want to produce it. Today, we don't produce commercial grade thorium. So technology for thorium reactor is presently available in Europe, but we can absorb it. At present, the first thorium reactor has come in China in September 2021, and it's running nicely. And thorium is not as radioactive, and it is not risky as much as uranium is all about. And that is the part where we may become a leader in raw material for the first time. Otherwise, even today, in any form of raw material that we are accessing, even if you look at renewable transport, which we are talking of electric vehicle there, right? Electric vehicle needs lithium-ion battery. And lithium deposits, 92% is only 4 countries. The top deposit with Australia, 50%. The second biggest lithium country is Chile. The third biggest is its neighbor, Argentina. And the fourth one is China. So Chile has about 25%. Argentina would be another 12%, and China would be about 11%. These together will form about 92% of the global lithium deposits. So the rest of the countries, including America and all, will only share the 8%. We are 202 countries in the world, and only 4 countries control the raw material resource. So obviously, in this game, India is not going to be any sort of leader, because we will continue to import the lithium as a raw material. We will not be able to produce raw material in India. And then we'll be an importer of the raw material, like we were importing crude all these years. We'll keep importing gas. So my point to all of you here is, at some point of time, economically, we will have to become or choose raw materials in our command, and that means thorium reactors are our future. And I will tell you the second part, which is my last topic here, renewable energy, waste to energy generation. From agricultural activity and also municipal activity, we get a lot of waste. And all this waste is not waste, it is a resource. We can generate literally wealth from the waste. But that wealth can only come if we start thinking of waste as a resource first. Just talking about waste to wealth will not work. So Punjab, Haryana and all are big agro states. Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh are the largest producers of sugarcane or cane sugar. So therefore, the raw material after processing the sugar throughout, what comes out of the filtration and distillation is what you call as press mud. And press mud, when you look at it, it looks like mud, but it is the sugarcane leftover. And it has got a very high quantum of natural gas in it. So good news for you is Government of India has put up a policy called CETAT, in which we are extracting compressed biogas, which is bio-CNG, out of the agro waste. Right now, we are doing it using basically the hybridization of press mud and cow dung. But in this, we can mix parali, we can mix our rice husk, we can mix oil seeds, flakes and waste. All of this can generate bio-CNG. Major revolution waiting to happen. India has 5,97,000 villages. By REPA's own assessment, if each village develop 5 to 7 tons per day plant, the total GDP traction is a massive $3 trillion US. So if we go for 50% of that 50% of our villages should have one bio-CNG plant. I'm telling you, the traction is $1.5 trillion US traction we'll get. And this is the opportunity that will deploy a lot of people, employ a lot of people, create the GDP traction. These are the game changers. These are, we say disruptions. No, these are not disruption. This is rediscovering our wealth and truth. There's no disruption. We are already producing that waste. We are dumping those waste. We are burning them away. We are incinerating it. That is not done. And then people start blaming the farmers for burning the waste. That's not the way. Waste is wealth. Where waste is a resource. If there is a structure of a tipping fee, structure of all these things, coming to a commercial sector and then take away from them into plants where we generate electricity or generate fuel, which is bio-CNG. I am telling you, gold is waiting to come here. We are and this is a raw material again in our control. Just like thorium as a raw material is under control, this is a control. And coal, we still have 384 billion. So we must go to develop coal-bed methane, which is a cleaner fuel. And then when we separate the hydrogen, we can use the carbon dioxide coming out as commercial rate carbon dioxide. We will immediately find that carbon dioxide has a use. Carbon itself will have a use, because in the leftover from the agricultural CNG or bio-CNG coming from non-fossil based economy, there what is left is high-grade fertilizer. The waste is a high-grade fertilizer. It's a high carbon content fertilizer. In Kolhapur, when I visited the small plant producing 4.5 tons at Varna, they are actually producing 28% content carbon. Organic carbon content is 28% in the leftover, which is being sold as it is to the farm sector. And one of the farmers came and told me, sir, the barren land, matlab banjar zameen, isko hum upjao bana denge 3 saal. That's the kind of resource that it is, what is left out of processing agriculture waste and animal husbandry waste, because they are mixing cow dung and press mud. And this is being done at Rohtak also, 7 tons per day plant, where one of our friends is running it. And this plant uses 150 tons per day of press mud and about 100 tons per day of cow dung and buffalo dung, which is we call goba, right? Basically, that's what is used. And this hybrid is able to generate gas. And I visited this plant, and that natural gas goes into our automotives. It goes to the IOCL, takes it away. Indian Oil Corporation is taking it away. And they have to stop blending this. Rather, they have to sell this commercially, because this is better for our IC engines, because they perform better. The average is better for the IC engines. And we can even operate a tractor with this. We can operate trucks with this. So instead of going electric vehicle, we have to go to the compressed biogas zone, where we must bring this bio-CNG or compressed biogas into the economy. So this part also I have explained. Regarding the China, US and EU, we are seeing it together, but more or less after Angela Merkel's exit as a Chancellor of Germany, I don't think European Union is as strong as it was before. So basically, Germany is one of the leaders over there. Germany is a technology leader in renewable energy, and India and Germany will continue to work together in a big way, for sure. US is also a kind of a technology leader in some areas, but not everywhere. And India is no pushover, let me tell you. The only problem in India is we are not bringing our PhDs and research into action. We have too much patents, but patents are not commercialized. Unless we go to commercialization of our patents on our ideas and make it successful, we will be only islands of success. We will not be able to bring it into the big action of driving the Indian economy as such. So the time has come, my friend, and the opportunities for growth in renewable energy is just, the sky is not the limit, my friend. They say sky is the limit. No, the sky is not the limit. India can really be a leader, but for that, it's a combination of government policy, institutional excellence, research, and the industry collaboration. If these three dimensions come to picture, I don't see why we can't have a fantastic future in the renewable energy domain. I think I have tried to give you the best possible in this short time, and we had a little bit of flip of changing and bringing everybody in. But I would rather be very happy to give long time to the question answer session, because your students, some of the things that I've said basically may have got into you. Some of it you will be hearing it first time, but when you start hearing it, you start getting interested in it. But yes, I'm open to question answers, and I want you to raise questions and doubts, which I'm ready to answer for you today. Over to the management at LPU. I think students must be encouraged to ask questions. They can ask questions whether on the job opportunities, on the future areas of renewable energy, on what they can do both in India and overseas. Opportunities all around for renewables.
Students, anybody having any questions can
please feel open. Please feel open.
Yes, students, please you can ask questions. You can have your doubt clear. Okay, you are welcome to ask questions, please.
That you have any sort of question.
Yes, students, please.
I think how many are there? About 70 of them?
74.
70. Yes, students.
I think
feel free to interact.
I will see about 8 or 10 questions coming. It must happen. In a good group, it must happen. Even the faculty can raise questions, so that the students are feeling shy at the beginning, or for some inhibition, they're not coming up. They must come up.
Yes, sir. I'd like to have one question. If you can allow me, sir, please. Hello? Am I audible?
You are audible.
Sir, yeah. Sir, as we know that India has got enormous resources in terms of generation of the other form of the electricities, but still we are lagging behind in certain ways in spite of. So how we can promote, or what are the ways apart from, is political is one of the influence which also plays a very major role in this regard, that we cannot come up with, even though having a large amount of resources in India, we cannot compete, or we cannot go ahead with the present what we could do ahead. So can we chalk it out? What are the how we can actually, the Indians or the people of India can do, so that we can also compete with the rest of the world in spite of having such kind of resources that we had?
Yeah, see, one of the answers was lying right in my pitch. that we must promote technologies like thorium-based reactors in the nuclear side. There is a gray area. We are the largest thorium country, and we are waiting for China to put up a thorium reactor. And China does not have a reactor. China imported from the same German company which I am in touch with. But my government has not shown the political will to generate and say we'll put up the first pilot of thorium reactors. They have not supported the scientists. So this is definitely a sort of a political economy question, not a pure political question. It's a question of the political economy. And then there is a nuclear lobby. The nuclear lobby in the world does not want India to get out of uranium. And uranium, when you do, you will be importing uranium, and then you come to any uranium that you use, isotope U-238 in the nuclear reactor becomes isotope uranium-239. 239 is plutonium grade. U-239 is plutonium. The moment you do this, they will say, okay, aap kahan rakh rahe hain isko, kaise store kar rahe hain, what are you doing with this? They will come on you, the global politics will come on you, and then they don't supply to you. See, I remember I was the man who fought, and NDTV got me to that interview with a US Republican, an Indian origin man, who came to that program. And Pankaj Pachari was doing that program. I'll share that video. I have the video. I'll share the link. And that was massive, because on that day I said we need nuclear for energy, because I'm following Homi Jahangir Baba's ideology. Here we are not. India is not going to make many bombs. हमें 10-12 bombs तो हमें बनाने पड़ेंगे. तुमने कई बना दिए. You got hundreds and tons of bombs. But then we were using plutonium grade fuel to fire our Kalpakam secondary reactor. But that is only one way. But now when we go to thorium reactor, it's completely disconnected with the stage 4 reactor. And then when we do thorium, we have a raw material, we got all control. So unless we support this research, where the hell will our scientists go? Can you imagine, in the last 7 years, we have not added a single megawatt of nuclear power in this country?
Right, sir.
That is the answer. The second part is, we have enough of this parali and agriculture waste. Why don't we convert all of that into energy? Same way, municipal waste is coming. All these treatment plants can generate biomethane. Why we are not converting all of that? Why we don't make it mandatory? So unless we make this political bills approach and then allocate budgets, budgetary allocations have to come to this dimension. I didn't see any sentence in the budget for SATAT, which is the government's own scheme. They must have enhanced the past, and they have not done it. So if you don't allocate currency and funds to these schemes, which is indigenous, and you work, I'm sorry, I'm saying we are almost fearing the world lobby. They keep telling us that India is a polluter, and we accept this statement. India is not a polluter. India is the least polluter among all the top 10 countries, because India has a 138 crore population, 1.38 billion. As I told you, we only have 394 gigawatt. China has 2000 gigawatt. Usme se 1000 gigawatt is coal. India has only 2. So we must not be used to state that India is a polluter. It is not. So this is my point. So India, this whole thing that India is a high polluter and then putting us in number 3, number 4, this is also happening at UN. We must fight this battle, or if they can't fight, they should send Professor Iyer to fight the UN guys.
Right, sir.
Then they'll be on my back foot. Then they say, put the onus on India. Bhai, aap aisa karenge to hum kya karenge? If you don't support, and that's why they want to bottle us. They say don't develop coal power. I am a renewable energy champion. I'm saying I'm not fool. I still want India to double the capacity of thermal power from 203 using supercritical technology. And we have 5 factories which need employment jobs. They are loaded only 20%. 4 or 5 factories. The largest factory in the country is BHEL. It is a 20 gigawatt manufacturing source for supercritical thermal power plants. The number 2 is JSW Toshiba. The number 3 is L&T Mitsubishi. The number 4 is BJ Hitachi. Iske alawa, there are other people. The G or Alstom is also a capacity for us, right? They have factories in India. Then we have boiler factories of Thermax. We have boiler factories of EJEC. What will happen if all of these people stop the business? What are they trying to tell us? See, we will need time, 10 years. If these people, they are removing people because they say a coal power plant nahi aega, boiler nahi use hoga, ye nahi use hoga, plan. Boiler kahan mat use kariye? Boiler aap udhar mat use kariye. See, milk generation mein boiler ka use band kariye. Because you are taking to steam and then bringing the temperature back. Steam ko aap hot water bana rahe. That is the inefficient way of doing it. Usko band kariye. But steam generation to produce thermal power is a good job, provided we use ultra supercritical and supercritical technology, which is available with India.
Exactly.
One of my NIT is the champion NIT Trichy. You know, BHL has got the best thermal boiler manufacturing facility for power generation in Trichy. Are we trying to say all these workers will be sent off? So I don't think we have to work under the Western pressure. And it
Right.
is the first thing we have to understand, that while we have to embrace renewable energy, we have not to run with the Western pressure on all these things. So it is the politics of a different kind, that we succumb to this, the global lobby, the PricewaterhouseCoopers, I'm sorry I'm naming them, Ernst & Young, KPMGs. These people keep pushing India, saying, "Aap renewable kariye, aap kariye." Bhai, isme America ne pehle kyun nahi kiya? Why did the Chinese do not do it? And why did you not open your mouth when Chinese were building all that thousands of gigawatts? Now they want to build another 600 gigawatt on Korean Peninsula. No noise for that. But when India starts building coal, Google will say, "I'm monitoring your power plants. I'm doing this, I'm doing that." I don't understand. And there's foolish people. 50 gigawatt of our electricity. I've challenged it. You can't. You can definitely shut down Panipat thermal power house because वो बहुत पुरानी हो गई है. ऐसे कुछ मिला के आपको 10 gigawatt बंद हो सकते हैं. 50 gigawatt की जो figure दे रहे हैं, this is the complete foolishness without adding capacity in renewable. Because in renewable we'll have to add 4 times capacity. अगर 50 gigawatt thermal power plant बंद करना है, if you want to close 50 gigawatt, you need to add 200 gigawatt of renewable energy. Because 25% is what we will get as a fraction, or 20% rather. So with this, I have answered your question. It's just not only politics.
Yes, sir. Right, sir. So there is a one
at
yes,
institutions, at other places of these big four. They take the MBA students, and those MBA students know nothing. I keep meeting them. They come, they produce that report. Then we throw out that report. Organizations like REPA throw out that report. We say this is junk. You know, they don't know the subject, and so they should work with organizations like us. Then only they'll know what likh kya rahe hain. And these are all sorts of report graphs are put, and people are confused. You know, I tell you, so many graphics come. See, I've seen Ernst & Young report, all graphics, big talk. Go inside and you'll find what a flaw it is. So it is too much of data and wrong data. The right data is not used. I have given you the right data today. I can produce any sort of right data for the economy. So unless we in institutions also change our attitude. Abhi mere ko bataiye, I'm thankful that these 74 students are all of lovely professional university. They are not from a Harvard or Stanford. Then professors will end up going and making tie-up with these universities. Inko aata kya hai? What does the Harvard know? What does Stanford know? With due respect to them, I challenge them that you attend a lecture and question me. In the 2 hours of Harvard will have a lecture, they will know that they know nothing. So why do we entertain these degrees? I'm proud NITian with data. I don't take books and talk to you. Without, I can go extempore. Question me.
Right, sir.
So I'm not a very big fan of this foreign education. I'm sorry. Time has come that the LPU, the Amities, and all these private universities, and also the public sector National Institute of Excellence like NITs, they have to all start talking that हमारे को research के पैसे और दीजिए, हमें modernize करवाइए, हमारी labs की modernization कराइए. All these things are very important. I was stunned when I went to my own NIT and I see the rotating equipment division is using motors of 50 years old motors. भाई आप कैसे करेंगे? And then one, I don't want to name, some professor came, a junior professor, he said high voltage testing का area था. कहते हैं हम बच्चों को हाथ नहीं लगाने देते. अरे फिर तुम क्या टेस्टिंग करा रहे हो? What testing? भाई बच्चों को हाई वोल्टेज टेस्टिंग हाथ नहीं लगाने देते. हाई वोल्टेज कैसे सीखेगा? एक आध शॉक तो लगना चाहिए उसको. So this is very important. Institutions have a very great job, and they cannot be, you know, sitting back and relaxing and saying, "Koi hame madad kar de." We have to help ourselves now.
Correctly, sir. Correctly, sir. Sir, there is one question which has been raised from the.
See, now students will be excited.
Sir,
all
there is one.
You are lucky people that you are at LPU.
Sir, we are very charged with your.
India ka dhappa lagega. Foreign data piche mat jaiye.
Sir, we are very charged with your very innovative and very good thoughts. And one of the questions has been raised by one of the student over here, sir, to the chart. He wants to know what extent India is working towards renewable resources. His question is through the chart message.
India is definitely in a very advanced zone of renewable energy traction. In fact, when I started writing the solar report for the government, it was the year 2009 that I met Ambassador Shyam Saran. He was the principal advisor to Dr. Manmohan Singh on climate change. I started working on capacity enhancement for renewable energy, and one of the first jobs I did was to ask that we need gigawatt scale development of solar. We made our first report for 50 gigawatt, and in 2013 at Surat, we released the 100 gigawatt by 2022 report. And we are now saying 400 gigawatt by 2027. And this is very viable. So India is at the forefront of renewable. But I must not mince words. Actually, the present leader in renewable energy is China, not even America. You know, I'll give you the figures. China has got 254 gigawatt of wind power at this juncture. They have got 281 gigawatt of solar, and they have got 350 gigawatt of hydropower. I'll give you the figures for India. India is, of course, almost the second in terms of growth, but India's capacity is 46.5 gigawatt of hydro versus 350 gigawatt of China. In the solar, we are 50 gigawatt. We just crossed 50 gigawatt, while we were supposed to do 100 gigawatt by 2022, which will not happen in March. But China has got 281 gigawatt against our 50. And in the wind, China was 254 gigawatt, and India is right now at 40 gigawatt. We have just crossed. So you can just compare the leadership, even if you're number 2, number 3, the comparison is very, very far off, you know, between India and China, you know, and then our populations are comparable. They are 1.4 billion, we are 1.38 billion. So therein lies my answer, that while we are good and we may be looking like America and rest of Europe will say India is definitely a leading country in renewable energy, but we must not rest. We must at least be at least 50% of what China is, if not equal to them. So if China has 250 gigawatt of solar, we should have already crossed 100 gigawatt by now. So that is where my answer lies. So resource available hai, and at hydropower, they have developed 350 gigawatts. So why we are not developing the hydropower? Entire Northeast, you know, just one state of Arunachal Pradesh, as per our survey, government figure is 60 gigawatt. Our survey in Arunachal Pradesh is 150 to 200 gigawatt geologically hydropower is available in just one state. And that is the reason China is pressurizing India on Arunachal. The real reason is not, there is no population, barely population. Arunachal population is just a little bit more than Bhutan. Bhutan has 750,000 people. Arunachal may have 10 to 11 lakh people. But basically what is happening, the resource is 200 gigawatt of hydropower that is available in Arunachal Pradesh. So this one single idea will tell you that how much we lack development. Governments keep saying that we are developing Northeast. No, they are not developing. We need to develop in a big way. Northeast should be the powerhouse supplying to the country. If Bhutan can think of exporting its 45 gigawatt into India, why can't a Sikkim with 70 to 80 gigawatt? Why can't Arunachal Pradesh with 200 gigawatt, 150 gigawatt? Why they can't supply power to the rest of the country through hydropower? So hydro is still my champion, because hydro is a great renewable energy. It takes time to develop, but it's an asset. Life is 100 years. No thermal power plant, no solar, no wind can go beyond 25 to 30 years. No coal-based power plant can last for 25 years. But hydro assets last for 75 to 100 years. Bakre ki life dekh lo aap. So that's the answer I have provided.
Right, sir.
We should focus on
Yes,
nuclear,
sir.
hydro,
Sir,
kind of.
I just have one.
Not just solar.
Sir, I just have one more question, if you can allow me to ask this. Sir, I see that most of the countries like Brazil and other developed nations, they generally used a blend of the fuel, that is diesel with the diesel material. So blend of the fuels that generally use, which is as a form of to reduce the pollutants. Now, India also have such kind of resources which can also extensively use. When we talk a lot about pollutions, we talk a lot about environmental pollutions everywhere it is happening. So looking to this such disastrous effect, like as you said that in 2050, the main, a time comes when if you're not going to look to it, so maybe we don't have any natural resources available. If you're going to use it in such manner, maybe at the time we don't have the natural resources left over. So to have a sustainable development, we have to look for some other alternative ways by which you can save these natural resources. So even though we know that such kind of pollutions generates from the use of such kind of fuel, so why don't we develop such kind of technology which could also help us to sustain the longer time of using of natural resources? Why don't we develop such?
So there is one way which I told you. The first one I told you is converting our agriculture and animal husbandry waste to resource, which is basically bringing out the compressed biogas out of it. See what happens when you burn the and incinerate this, you selling pollution out, but don't burn it. See, West has got a problem. West continues to look at biomethane also as a polluter. Methane does not travel in the planet. Methane remains in the ground. It's a heavy gas. So what happens when you take the biomethane out, both from animal husbandry waste and this, and use it for conversion into biogas, you actually send it to automotive and it's a clean fuel, right? And the carbon can be easily trapped in that. It is not difficult, and this technology is available in India. It's not key, but isme kya hai ki we have to first make an IC engine. In India, even today, we are running the trucks. See, Tata puts Cummins technology in the truck. So Tata has a Cummins tie-up and they use it. I don't think any of the automotive makers are using their own engine. They have modified the engines offered to them under license. So even a Mahindra does not do that. So unless we generate our own engines and our own technology, we have adapted, fine, but we don't have a basic IC engine design in India.
Yes,
Other than
right.
there is this company called Sonalika. Sonalika
Yes.
use an engine designed in India. At Durgapur, that institute has developed that. That's the only tractor maker which uses a tractor engine developed in India. Otherwise, we do not have people who are using their own engines design for even a tractor. So unless we go there,
Right,
because
sir.
adaptation to CNG, even for tractors, is not at all difficult. Adaptation is only the fuel system. But pehle engine बताएं. Pehle develop an engine. Develop an engine technology. Abhi we had opposed the shelving of Kaveri engine. Kaveri engine was being made for HAL. Basically, it was an engine made by the Aviation Design Agency. And in this engine, Kaveri engine, its only problem was the weight was a little higher. So weight of the aircraft to the weight of the engine part and weight to fuel to weight ratio was trouble for us. So uske liye usko shelve kar diya. I wrote several letters and now they have revived the project again. So that means in a fighter aircraft, we will have a Kaveri engine in the future. The opportunity is just opened up. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, sir. Very rightly, sir. Very
So
rightly.
basically, this is what is the news. That Kaveri engine, which was shelved by the government, has to be taken back because of people like us wrote to them.
Sir, I think that if government,
भारत में नहीं बनाएंगे तो कैसे चलेगा?
right, sir.
आप
सर मुझे लगता है कि
the body and
right,
the
sir.
engine first. See, today also HAL's Tejas Mark 1, it is using GE 404 engines.
Yes.
Now if now Mark 414, now अगर उसमें Kaveri engine लगा देते हैं आपका, so you will have your own test.
Right, sir.
And then what happens for the engine, the price of the aircraft, 60% is engine and controls.
Yes.
तो हमारी जो हम एक्सपोर्ट की बात कर रहे हैं या हम इंडिजिनाइजेशन की बात कर रहे हैं वो ढकोसला हो जाता है. It is not real because you are importing all these components. See, even for solar, we are basically a module maker country. We don't make raw material. We don't make silicon PV. We don't make ingots. We don't make cells. The capacity of cells is nowhere compared to China. China has 250 gigawatt of current capacity manufacturing. India may 10 gigawatt nahi. And what has the government done? It has put a basic custom duty on imports. How would you? The whole world is importing. You have to build capacity on your own. So there are a lot of problems, policy dimension, because people, everybody wants to see, oh, आपको मैं glass दे देता हूँ and I'm putting positive. मैं आपको कहता हूँ half full है भाई, पी लो. पर मैं कहता हूँ मैं क्यों देखूँ उसको half full? मैं तो पूरा glass चाहता हूँ.
Exactly.
I want this bloody glass to be full. Why half full?
Exactly. Right, sir.
Ask these questions.
Right, sir.
एक नया मूड आया है. वो कहते हैं नहीं आप exercise करेंगे तो you are positive. You stay positive. Why we will stay positive, but we will tell the truth. Can we run a 100-meter race in 16 seconds and compete in the world order? You have to run the 100 meters in 10 seconds or less.
Yes, sir. Sir, may I ask you a question, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, sir, I don't know much about technical terms in this field. But by listening to you, I have a question in my mind that any change any change which we are looking forward for carries responsibility not only for government and companies like REPA, but also carries responsibility on general public. General public must also carry some responsibility for the same. So, what are those responsibilities for the general public in terms of renewable energy?
See, I'll tell you, this argument I have been hearing for the last 7 years में कुछ ज़्यादा ही हो गया है. See, putting responsibility on the public will be a very dangerous trend. That means the governments are saying, now we can't do it unless people agree to us. It's a very easy way of doing it. Let me tell you that countries do not work like this. See, you cannot have a person on the street understanding कि मेरे को बिजली कैसे आ रही. He is not bothered. He or she is not bothered कि आप solar से भेज रहे हैं, मुझे आप thermal से भेज रहे हैं. आप ही उसको बिजली मिल रही है, उसको सस्ती मिल रही है. Is only bothered. So,
Definitely.
we continuously putting all onus on the people is a very dangerous. Every mass, we need a mass mover. So the mass mover and shaker, first we have to get 5% of our population understanding renewable energy domain in a proper way, so that the rest of it can be assimilated and awareness is created en masse. This cannot be done unless until we create that first mass of 5% of intelligent people. Now there is a new trend. पढ़ रहे हैं, सब कर रहे हैं. You know, they are being called intellectuals, and कभी-कभी उन्हें उल्टा भी बोला जाता है कि आप पढ़ लिख गए हो, ये है वो है. So by demeaning our educated population, the government itself is making a mistake because they don't want to hear this population. फिर जो पढ़े लिखे नहीं है वो क्या करेंगे? So
Correct,
this
sir.
business of saying कि ये public की responsibility है, ये ढकोसला है. Public की responsibility कचरा नहीं फेंकेगी. Public की responsibility है वो civil society में civil रूप से जाएगी. वो कुछ ऐसे काम नहीं करेगी जिससे देश का नुकसान हो. पर इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि वो आपकी गलत कामों में प्रोटेस्ट नहीं करेगी. उसकी राइट टू प्रोटेस्ट है. वी आर गांधीयन कंट्री. वी मे नॉट बी वायलेंट बट वी विल हैव द राइट टू प्रोटेस्ट. तो आप ये सब आप इसकी बात करिए. The entire pandemic, I am not agreeing, it is a pandemic. You tell me on what count we are still wearing I am not agreeing to this mask wearing business. It's a dangerous business. We are reducing 70% of oxygen intake. हम कह रहे public की responsibility है. कहीं भी कोई proof नहीं आया है कि ये वायरस नहीं फैलेगा. अच्छा, वैक्सीन लगाने के बाद भी ये वायरस सक्सेसफुल हो गई है on us. Nobody is asking. Virologists is keeping quiet. भाई आप पढ़ के आप चुप हो जाएंगे and there's kind of a global agreement कि हम चुप रहेंगे, हम collectively चुप रहेंगे और जो बोलेगा उसको हम चुप कराएंगे. ये तो कैसे चलेगा? So don't put it on the poor people and they do not understand. They only know हमें बिजली आ रही है, हमें पानी मिल रहा है, हमें खाना मिल रहा है. They are only bothered. So if you want them to be dolers, that means आप कहेंगे हम आपको इतना पैसा दे देते हैं, आपको 5 किलो ग्रेन दे देते हैं, हम आपको ये करते हैं. ये जिस तरह से you will kill your economics. Your demographic dividend will become a demographic disaster. If they know that they are going to get everything to eat and they have to do nothing, nobody will work.
Completely agreed to you, sir. So, sir, there's one of our students who want to raise a question. Muskan Chopra.
Hanji.
Can you please unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yeah, hello, sir. A very warm afternoon.
A little louder.
Okay, sir, fine. So, sir, my question to you is because you've talked about Germany, right? And I'm very curious about learning about Germany or US or why they are ahead of us or something. So, what I wanted to ask you is what makes you say that Germany will not be a powerful, like it won't be as powerful as it has been in the renewable energy sector after the exit of the Chancellor, Angela Merkel?
See, I'll tell you, while I'm a big fan of Angela Merkel, I consider her the greatest leader that the world produced. While I make this statement, and I'm very happy that she was a woman leader, I'm very happy that Germany did that. But what happened? She was a practical leader, but she also made her mistakes. Nobody is infallible. So her mistake was going against nuclear power. That was the only blunder she did, because nuclear is renewable energy. I don't know what problem she had. She was continuously working against nuclear, and she was a scientist. So I think her whole problem was nuclear waste and other things, and the kind of environment that Americas and Russias and others have built around, that probably Merkel did not go in favor of nuclear. And you know, the funny part is the best partner in the European Union is France. And France does not make too much of solar or anything. While it is a member of the Solar Alliance, France 70% generates electricity from nuclear. This is the point I'm making. So now why I said that after her going, it will be difficult, because when Eurail, the European rail, or the DB Bahn, the trains run in Europe, they run because of the electricity provided by France. Because nuclear is almost 24/7, because the nuclear power plant does not stop. Solar will come intermittently. So basically what she did in the European Union was her integration of the EU itself. After the German wall fell, she was the lady who came and integrated everything and made everything happen. And then the whole European Union as a body was remaining together because of Merkel's leadership, a soft leadership, a scientist, and that will not happen because now the new leadership in Germany is not as capable as her, and there will be definitely frictions between Germany and France as well, as much as you have seen UK has done by Brexiting. By Brexiting, UK has not only damaged their interest, they have also damaged the interest of the European Union. So that is my point. My point is, even renewable was developing because of Merkel. Although she made a mistake in nuclear, she went high in solar. All rooftops in Germany are solar. Whole of Europe has done solar much before all of us came there. But in the long run, there is no capacity addition in this. And today, I'm very sorry to tell you that Germany is paying 40 rupees per unit for electricity. In India, the average domestic price is about 8 to 10 rupees. So you can imagine 4 times is the cost. And for gas, for their winter, they need Russian gas. So without Russia, they cannot get the gas. So with all this happening in Ukraine and what is happening, Europe may be thinking that we are following the Americans, but they may be making their biggest blunder in this Russia-Ukraine crisis. If they don't get gas, they would die of cold. So I made a statement from the point of view of energy politics itself.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir. Sir. So there are a lot of questions which are coming from
this Kaveri issue. So whoever has
yeah, sir.
I request them to give me an email. I will send you some details of what Kaveri engineers are all about.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So there
are many scholars in India who can do wonders in this, and some did also. But what is the main cause which is stopping them?
See, I tell you, there is no stopping Indians. I would still put the blame on a lack of industry institution tie-up. I mean, we are a non-profit body. We are not we're not like a company. We are like a company, but not like a company. We are a non-profit. So a non-profit is doing things based on what we need for the country. But whereas every business that comes will have only the business interest predominantly, whether we like it or not. And the public sector, compared to the private sector, is more oriented toward the nation. So therefore, when I work with an NTPC or an HPC and talk to them, it is a different ball game. While I talk to an Adani or an Ambani or any of these Mahindra or any of them in the energy sector. So basically, we need to understand the private sector will have only focus ki hum ye karenge, we'll get this business, we'll do this business. So they are very business oriented, and they are spending very less in R&D. Our total R&D spend in the country average is less than 2%. DHL spend about 3% in R&D, 2.5 to 3%. Private sector, even a Tata does not spend 2 to 2.5% in R&D. So our expenses R&D in the industry is very low. We have become users of technology and not givers of technology. So young people who want to research or any area must first know that they should not live on the idea of fellowships and doles. सारा बिजनेस ही होता है कि हम उसको वो समझते हैं इनकी कमाई है, उसको हम लेंगे and they work on. That must not be the agenda. Agenda should be, if you sacrifice 1 or 2 years, then you develop a commercially viable technology. So if you take a PhD, your PhD should be commercially viable. It should go on the ground and become commercially executable. So if we have 8 or 10 patents, I would say anybody taking 10 patents should at least commercialize 3 to 4 of them. So there is no dearth of excellence in India, but we don't want to be leaders. We want somebody else to buy. We want some Elon Musk or some Amazon fellow or some other fellow or some Azim Premji to buy my thing and take it forward. Not going to happen. ऐसा नहीं होगा. आपको commercialization करने का काम करना पड़ेगा. Governments will also have to realize they have to support these kind of people. So grants to universities are lessened. अभी तो the scenario is very bad. Grants are lessened. Research के लिए पैसा. उसमें कारण क्या था? Patent file करने के लिए 50 लाख रुपए खर्च कर रहे हैं. That's the first thing. This is the troublesome.
There's one more question saying every student knows how to save water, but even though it's not being implemented or executed. So what's your say and why it's theoretical? Every student knows how to save water.
Okay, save water.
But even though it's not being implemented or executed. So what's your say and why it's theoretical?
Okay, see, the problem for saving water is like this. Somebody has asked the question on saving of water. Yes, saving of water is very crucial. But even more important is to understand that we do not have water resource access. Our water resource access is pathetic today. We have in urban centers 50 liters per capita per day as a water access, whereas the WHO standard for hygienic living is 160 to 200 liters of water per day. And in the rural sector, we are not having access of more than 25 to 30 liters, while rural needs water for farming, water for everything, water to keep clean. So we are in a water crisis as much as an electricity challenge right now. So I think while you're talking of saving water, we have our idea of saving water is because we are getting less and we are talking of saving from less. So first of all, we must now not allow the very rich urban like which is South Delhi or in Mumbai we have got the Valkeshwars who get 24/7 water supply. पहले तो इसको रोको, 24 घंटे water supply नहीं हो सकती, because suburbs are getting water supply for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. I live in a suburb in Thane district, India's largest district by virtue of population, and I think by area also it's one of the largest in the country. We get water only 1 hour per day, my friends, and we are managing very comfortably. I'm telling you that unless we ration water, we make the resource, and then this policy makers will have to do it, the water will be continue to be wasted. Ab kheton mein pani dalna hai. If you give 24/7 electricity and they will get it free, they will put the water and they will start the pump and keep it on, and they'll burn the diesel also. So we must be knowing, and this is a policy makers issue. As much as awareness you create, water wastage is there. On the other side, our access to water is also very, very limited. We must not shy away from the fact that we are far below the WHO standards in water access, and therefore water related issues, agricultural problems, then health problem, hygiene problem, all together we are facing multiple problems here. Definitely.
There's one more question saying why India is spending much less on R&D than European countries.
See, India spending less on R&D is a true fact. European countries are rich already. They have reached a stage where, but we cannot still continue to talk about 2.5% of GDP. We must create a separate R&D fund for the country. Its time has come, and this much up the ante by adding another 2.5%. So at least 5% of the industry turnover in contribution to GDP must go towards R&D. So R&D spends in this country have to go up, and we must encourage researchers to commercialize their technology. Now, I've given you the answer in two ways. One is availability of money. Other is responsibility of researchers to take their technology to commercial success.
So one more
I have
question
one
is,
question. Okay.
there is some other question saying what can we do at small levels to contribute in this?
Yeah, very good. Somebody has said, what can we do at small levels to contribute in this? I tell you, no level is small. Boon boon se sagar hota hai. So if you start at your place, if you start at your own interest and try to make and orient your interest towards releasing some of the problems of humanity. For example, suppose you have a challenge. Every institution, उनके यहाँ fast cars बनाने का काम शुरू हो गया. सब और तेज कार बनाओ. ये मतलब that what you call, everybody wants to make fast cars in almost all the institutions. Now I do not know why nobody is trying to use hydrogen to drive a fast car. So first shift your entire thinking, and in let's say LPU have a group which drives this fast car with hydrogen. So this is the type of small changes that can come in. Same way you can make an electric vehicle, and don't make a four-wheeler, make a two-wheeler, make a commercial grade two-wheeler using the bicycle as a base and demonstrate that success at your place. Because I don't believe four-wheelers come from electric vehicle. Two-wheeler to banega hi bane. So now people don't want to pedal long distances. So without pedaling, can they take their bicycle? So think in this, innovate. These are just two little ideas I've given you. So we need to innovate in our mind what is needed. And then we, like I am now writing to maybe Mulayam Singh Yadav's son, I'm going to write 100% become chief minister. I'm making a political analysis. What will happen? If he comes, the young man was using the cycle. I'm planning to write a letter shortly saying, "Aap cycle lane banaiye pure UP mein." My principal associate long ago was a German guy called Alexander Kurz. He was he's now, I think, director on Siemens Erlangen board. Now, Alexander Kurz used to go from his home and his headquarters in Erlangen and Siemens bicycling in those days, 20 years back. He said he gets the right of way in Germany for moving his bicycle. He reached his office every day using his bicycle. It took him 2 hours pedaling. He did it every day. So this is the small change that each one of you can think about. You know, where possible, wherever. Campus mein ja rahe hain, cycle use kariye. Why do you want to use scooters and motorcycles and cars in the campus? आप अपने campus में cycle use करिए. ये सबसे बड़ा change है. LPU में कहेंगे, LPU में हम खाली चलाते हैं. Yes. और नो क्या करा.
Sir?
Yes, doctor.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm so actually we have here electric cars which actually we runs inside the campus, which is transportation from one place to other. It is run inside the campus. And second thing, we have adopted cycle system. Most of the students actually they're allowed to have the cycle transportation in the campus, inside the campus.
I know.
But sir, I just want to have one kind of query. Like here we have students over here, and students also do some kind of small capstone projects, some kind of research also they do. So my one thing is that how these two organizations like REPA and LPU can collaborate so that we can come with a profitable kind of things which would be benefiting to the society and to us as well. In what way? Because we also give some project to the students.
Yeah.
So in what way we can go ahead so that
the first challenge will be to identify those projects with the industry needs. Okay, just doing a project for the sake of it may not work for us, right? So we will have to do projects which the industry wants. So it's a three-way approach. First, I need to know what currently the students are doing. So these all will happen once I visit the campus, because I need to know what the students are interested. We'll have to, find out exactly deep dive interest of these people. And then we'll have to tell them what is happening in the market that we must expose to them. And once then they look at the retrofit, ki humko ye karna, this would be our interest. Then we identify those projects. And then we get the industry and we approach the industry, and I will make that approach for you to get some kind of funding to them to do this job. So this is a mechanism which has to be done properly, because no industry is doing it. Let's do it. Because it is not like, MF Hussain will make a painting and somebody will buy because he's MF. Once upon a time, MF Hussain Saab in those days used to paint posters. नंगे पैर जाते थे और पोस्टर पेंट करते थे फिल्मों की. उसमें few thousands मिलता था पेंट करने के लिए. He became a great painter only later. He was painting the Bollywood stuff, in those days. So Rome was not built in a day. Right.
Sir. Right, sir. Well said, sir. Absolutely agree with you.
Right. I talk concrete, I'm a hands-on engineer. Probably I'm asked a lot who came out and soiled his hand, and all that. I'll tell you, my first day in engineering college, हमें क्या किया, बर्छा पकड़ा. That बर्छा is घास काट.
Yes.
Barcha is a long. And you have to cut the grass. Oh, 2-3 people came and said, "Yaar, ये तो बड़ा अजीब हो गया यार, हम तो यहाँ घास काटने हैं." My colleagues, that time youngsters, and we are all from civil, mechanical, everybody. First year है, पहला दिन है, literally वो वहाँ workshop की जगह वो पूरा खेती में भेज दिया. है हरियाणा में, हम क्षेत्र में थे, अगल बगल में सारी ये धान की खेती थी, राइस की खेती थी, कहीं गन्ने की खेती थी, वहाँ भेज दिया, भाई काटो. So you know what? My thinking was very funny. Everybody was trying to cut, and I was trying to cut. I did not. First time I held that thing, because I never used that in my life. So मैं उसको एक angle में रख के, I was trying to find the angle of cut. Just my mind went there. So this guy, I cut off quickly without any practice, and everybody was trying to hit, and it was not going. Then that professor came and said, "This man knows. His first problem is trying to think how to cut." वो काटने नहीं गया पहले.
Yes, technology, technique, proper technique.
तो कटा. ठीक है. So there is a thing in everything that you learn. It is not कि अब वो घास काटने गए थे, अगर मैं सोचता तो घास ही काट. Right. But it was the right angle, right forces that were necessary to cut the grass.
Right, sir.
So sometimes the problem is as simple as that.
A proper technique is always required in every area.
आप गए हैं, पसीने छूट रहे हैं, 40 डिग्री टेम्परेचर है, खेती में छोड़ दिया है. नो उधर हमने सीखा कैसे पकड़ना है इसको, 100 को कैसे पकड़ना है, what angle में काटना.
Right, sir.
Everything
Where
has a
perceptions. Right, sir. Right, sir. So students, a small request to all of you that after the end of this lecture, we can have to give a feedback through this LPU touch on your mobile.
surely.
Okay, you will find the link over there to the LPU touch feedback on guest lecture and survey. You have to give it to that. Please, it is very mandatory for all of the students to have the feedback from you all. So I request every students to log into the LPU touch mobile and complete the task, and then only they're going to exit from here.
And I have a small
So
message for all the students. I have a small message.
Yes.
See, whenever
Yes,
you
sir.
come, you be positive on one thing, that somebody like us who's coming is trying to give it to you. So as much as we can. And also we would love you to question us. And professors who may not enjoy this should not come to teaching. I'm very fond of being questioned. And please go ahead and do your work and learn. Today you got a wide ambit idea. I told you that renewable and energy sector at large will be one of the biggest. In fact, I would say it would be the biggest employer with the COP26 in. And watch what I'm saying. So prepare yourself into that, and then will come the other areas like defense, infrastructure. Yeah, India ke liye defense and infrastructure bhi bahut acha areas hai. So we have to concentrate on these areas where more number of people will get employment deployment. We have to not only orient ourselves to IIT. Biotechnology is one good area for sure. Biotechnology mein, the area of virology is a very lacking area. Minus the two institutions, Punjab Agriculture University and the Haryana Agriculture University, there is barely study of virology. And after this pandemic, I think the study of virology will become very important. So I can talk on those subjects, but another time. But because I've been working in that area, although I'm not from the virology zone, but I've been working on defense very deeply. In fact, both the naval systems and Navy and the Air Force. These two areas I'm concentrating rather than the Army. Because Army ka jo technologies are, they are matured. You know, everything has matured. But it is basically the expanding the Air Force and the Navy that will happen in a big way for India. And our current spend is $70 billion per annum. Defense spend, it will go to $100 billion. So it's when the spend happens, there will be a lot of make in India there. And this may not be happening right now, but in the future it will be happening. So I feel the students must also know economy mein kya chal raha hai, and which areas of the economy, and then these professors at LPU and we together can then enable them to work. See, renewable energy will also be used in defense. For example, if you want to run your tanks using a biofuel, it is possible. So ye bhi to issue hai. See, everywhere where there is a mobility, transport that comes in will be RE mobility for me. And this word is not being used. REPa is the first organization in the world that has used the word RE mobility. Otherwise, it is e-mobility ki baat. Hum RE mobility ki baat kar. So I'm very thankful to LPU that we could interact with these young people. And I feel young people must take deeper interest in these subjects for their future.
Right, sir.
Because software में क्या होता है, आप software में हर बार upgrade करना पड़ता है. Energy में क्या होगा, आपकी upgradation तो होती रहेगी, लेकिन it is not, you will not be outdated. जो भी energy sector practitioner है, that current fellow who is going to teach or who is going to learn, and especially the ones who are learning, can easily be comfortable. 25-30 years, मेरा career safe. पर ये IT वाले नहीं कह सकते. IT वाले को पता है कि 5 साल बाद मुझे कुछ नया skill चाहिए, और कोई चीज सीखनी पड़ेगी. फिर जो नए बच्चे आएंगे वो मुझे डिसलॉज करेंगे. 10 साल बाद वो जॉबलेस हो जाते हैं. So ये वाली बात मैं बताना चाहता हूँ. Institutions में training in areas of real economy will enable people to stay put and help the institution also, because when they go, they survive, they grow, they will come back to their alpha mater to contribute further. So I think we need to have a good mix. I'm not against IT. Let people learn IT. IT enabler. Digital economy is there. But ये पिज्जा आपका डिजिटल ही नहीं आएगा. पिज्जा को आना ही पड़ेगा, कोई डिलीवर करेगा खाने के लिए. आप खेती कर पाएंगे जब आप फिजिकली वहाँ क्रॉप्स डालेंगे. रियलाइजेशन है to bring you back on the ground and talk of brick and mortar is very important. हाँ, IT enable कर सकता है. If you have satellite doing good surveillance and they can tell you what you can grow, what is the crop characteristic, when the rains will come, weather data, I can utilize it to do the right things. This information, if it goes to the farm sector, you don't force them to grow. Let them decide what they want to grow. But basically, let them get all the information on weather data, on crop and soil health, everything so that they are enabled to do the work. That is what it is all about. We have to be an enabler, not a
Right, sir.
interferer or infringer, modulator. ये अमेरिका ने ये mistake करा.
Right, sir. Any questions from the students? Any questions? We are going to wind up. So, any questions from the students?
Any other last? I'm here.
Yeah. Any other questions, students? Please put on. You can ask as well.
Last 1 or 2 questions, no issues.
Okay.
You're still there.
Yeah.
No, the
Okay.
interaction was good. I must congratulate, but I thought you can be
Thank
better.
you. No, sir. It was a very wonderful topic and a wonderful discussion you had on a topic which is really needed to the present scenario, the one which you are facing on. And because of these resources, you had been. We are seeing the war also. It is all because of the natural resources that has put into a war as well. So this is a very important for any.
One angle. I'll give you one interesting angle. Ukraine
Yes,
is
sir.
one of the top agriculture technology driven economy. So now you know the answer that I'm giving you.
Yeah.
So
I got it, sir.
Russia. I will not
I got it.
Russia alone, but
No,
just
no.
the political side is
I got
NATO
it.
also to look at what it is doing. So
Right, sir. I
Cold
got
War
it.
is over.
I got your
Time
point.
is to make peace. So NATO cannot be on the border of the Russians because you broke in 1991 the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. That is the first point of discussion. कि भाई ये तो टूटा हुआ देश. Imagine अगर भारत के साथ कोई करता कि what will be our response?
Exactly.
One पाकिस्तान के लिए हम इतने गुस्से में हैं, हम रोज डरते रहते हैं कि भाई हम उसको पीओ को वापस लेंगे, ये करेंगे, वो करेंगे. हमको चाहिए, बिल्कुल कहेंगे हम ये बात. तो अगर भारत पीओके से ही भारत को इतना नुकसान हुआ है, how do you expect Russia not to respond? And Ukraine was not only its territory, Kazakhstan was its territory, Kyrgyzstan was its territory, Pakistan was territory. और ये सारे गैस के rich economy है. Kazakhstan,
right, sir,
have largest deposits of gas. Central Asia की 85% natural gas उनके पास है. And renewables में भी बहुत बड़ी countries, they are desert countries.
Right, sir.
Let us not forget. So you know, I'm really, I feel sad that everybody is talking about Russia, but we are not talking about Ukraine. This president of Ukraine has been doing all sorts of things. ये भी डिस्कस करें तो ये रेन्यूएबल वाली बात भी है, बट रेन्यूएबल में क्रॉप्स की बात आ रही है, क्योंकि रशिया को पता है कि यूक्रेन इज द बिग ग्रोअर ऑफ फूड. रशिया उस बात को जाने नहीं देगा, उनकी इंटरडिपेंडेंस है. एंड इसमें क्या है कि थोड़ी सी मस्ती दुनिया की भी. नेटो ने इतना ज्यादा कोई काम नहीं था नेटो कर दिया. अब कहते हैं हम नेटो फिर स्ट्रॉन्ग कर. किस लिए नेटो भाई? वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 तो हिटलर के साथ जब सब लड़ रहे थे, व्हाट दे वर फाइटिंग. इनफैक्ट इट वाज बैटल ऑफ स्टालिनग्राड दैट the Hitler forces were defeated. Our kids do not know this. 1942, the Battle of Stalingrad. तो मेरे से ये भी बात करेंगे, किसी ने इसके लेक्चर कर लेना, बता दूंगा. Not so easy. जो आपको समझ आ रही है, that is not the reality. India will tell you something, but actual history has to be understood.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
Anyway, all the best. I think this will be enough.
Thank you. No, it was a very wonderful. It is.
ये negotiation का.
It was a very nice talk. अपने मतलब हमें भी अपने नॉलेज से काफी मतलब हम लोग भी एक ब्राइट नॉलेज, वाइडर नॉलेज आया, जो हमने जीडीपी ऑफ द कंट्री, वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमी और जॉब क्रिएटिंग सेक्टर, ग्लोबल वार्मिंग, ये सारे मतलब जो चीजें हैं जो कोई भी कंट्री के लिए बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट सेक्टर है, जो हमारे बच्चे भी ये जान पाए, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें, ये सब चीजें जो ये प्लेटफॉर्म के माध्यम से. सो आई मस्ट थैंक यू सर वेरी मच, and a very wonderful talk, very nice talk on this topic which you have given to us today. So myself and my team,
I want all the students to kindly go and read about 2 people. One is the great Chief Minister of Punjab called Pratap Singh Karon. इनके बारे में थोड़ा पढ़िए. And also read about the neighboring Chief Minister Bansilal ji as a development economist. It's not about politics, it's about how they did development. And एक तो सर छोटू राम के बारे में पढ़ी, how he brought agriculture revolution. तो ये 3, you know, these are the exercises you people have to do. आप नहीं समझेंगे तो आपको समझ में नहीं आएगी हो क्या रहा.
Right, sir.
So these Pratap Singh Karon, the first development of Punjab happened under Pratap Singh Karon. Read every politician had a good and a bad part, but Pratap Singh Karon was, you know, the kind of powerhouse that Punjab became in the early stage was thanks to Pratap Singh Karon. So I feel people must know their history. Sitting in Punjab, aapko ye padhna padega, and you must understand.
Sir, there are some feedback from the students which have they expressed. They are saying that it was a very wonderful session. It was very nice session. They got to learn a lot from this. So there are some messages which are said by the students who like to convey you.
Very
so
nice.
Some are saying that
all of
it
you
was very informative.
People can get my email ID and you can share my cell number, no issues. Maybe one student can interact, or 1 or 2 students, and of course the faculty. But if they have any questions,
right,
I'm ready to help them out.
Okay, sir. So all are saying it was very informative. So
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
with
much,
this,
sir.
See you, namaskar, and Jai Hind to all.
Jai Hind, sir.
with this, I'd like to conclude the end of the session. So, sir, a very big thanks to from my team and REPo for giving us an opportunity to be a part of your guest lecture. So, thank you very much. We wish to welcome you once again in the coming times. So, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you to all students who were very also present in hearing, who were very keen in listening as well. So thank you all students over here. Thank you every one of you. Thank you Rajdeep ma'am. Thank you to the team of the REPA team. So thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Had a great session. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.